Welcome back to Excel. Today we're going to work on some basic formatting of a workbook. I've already started my Excel spreadsheet based upon just a starter file, but you can use any file that you want for practice on this idea. The first thing we're going to do is start on our documentation sheet, which we have it active right here. We're going to make sure our home cell or A1 is clicked, and we can go and we can look at the fonts. Right now, if we look on our Home tab, in the font group, we notice that we have it set for Calibri. Let's change that to Cambria. So you notice we just click it and we select. Pretty easy, isn't it? We can also change our font here. Right next door, we have the font, and let's make this, I don't know, how about 26? Make it a little bit larger. That looks much nicer. Alright, we can, still using the font group, we can also make it bold. So we click that B there, make it bold. You could also use a keystroke of the Control key and the letter B to bold items as well, if that's handier for you. Let's move down to a second cell, and down here we're going to change our font again. So we go in our font group, same font, Cambria. This time let's make it italicized. So we will click on Home Group, our font group once again, in this crooked little letter I. As you can see, you can also use the Control I to italicize. We'll click that. Oh, much nicer, much nicer. Alright, and let's make this just a little bit smaller, so we'll make it a 10. Okay, so we can do formatting with our cells on an individual cell basis, or we can do multiple cells at a time as well. So let's do multiple. We can click and drag and select multiple cells. Let's make this bold. So we'll go up here and we'll click on our bold. And then we want to click out of there to make it no longer the active cell group. Alright. Let's mess around with our title and our slogan here. So we'll click these two cells, and we can change our font color if we would like. So we come over here to our font group in this letter A with the underline. We can click on it. Let's make it blue. Come down here and find blue. Oh, that's light blue. And here's blue. So now we have blue. I think I want to have it two color. So let's click on the Exercomp, double click it to make it edit. Remember, we come down here and we look at the bottom, and it now tells us that we're in edit mode. Let's select the COMP, and we're going to change the font color. In our home group, we're going to go to Font, click on our little font color button, and let's make it red. Click somewhere. Now look, we have red. That's pretty handy, isn't it? Bet you didn't know you could do that. Maybe some of you did, but that's it. So now, if you notice, what else can we do? We have a white worksheet right now, don't we? It's kind of boring. So let's add some color to it. So we're going to add a background fill color to these three cells here. So we're going to select them. We're going to go in our font group again, and we're going to go to this silly little symbol up here called the fill color. Let's grab it and let's choose blue. I'm in a blue mood today. So there's our blue, and we can select that. But you know what? I don't like that black text on there. So while that's still selected, let's change the color of our text to white. So we click on our font color and we say white. Oh yeah, that's much nicer. Much nicer. Let's see, what else should we do? Oh, column B here is kind of skinny. So let's make it larger. So we'll highlight column B. Now remember, there's a lot of different ways we can enlarge our cell. Alright, we can make it wider or skinnier. We can single click, and we could double click this. But that's an auto fit. That may not be the right size because I only want it to be 55 characters. So let's look and check it out here. Oh, see, it's 53. So let's move it over here to 55. If you have a hard time moving it like this, another way that you can do it is to simply click your column, make it active, right click, and go down here to column width, enter your 55 and say OK. So there's a bunch of different ways that we can do this. So when we're done, we're going to click somewhere else. This background's awful boring now. We can add a background color as well. So the way that we would do that is we would go to our page layout tab, and how about that? In the page setup, we've got a background button. And we would have to browse out to wherever we have background stored at. So for me, let me find my folder here. And there's my background. I simply click it and say insert, and ta-da! Let's go ahead and fill out the author. We'll put my initials in here for today, and let's insert today's date. So it is the 19th of March, and we'll enter that. Alright, what are some other things that we can do here? Let's see, what shall we do next? Well, let's change. That's too much formatting of text. Let's look at formatting of numbers for a moment. So let's enter some total numbers here. So we'll enter total. Remember, it's always nice to use capital, and lowercase numbers. It just makes it a little bit easier and a little prettier, right? Alright, now we want to sum the 2000 sales and the 2012 sales. Now remember, I could come down here and I could say equals, and I could say this plus this plus, and I could select them all, and that would get us there eventually. But it would be a lot easier just to enter a formula, wouldn't it? So let's go on our Home tab. Yes, there's our friend AutoSum. Well, we want to do both cells here. So we want to do C15 and D15. So let's select them both, and we'll come up here to AutoSum and say sum it, please. And now we have a sum. Very, very easy. But remember, we wrote total down here below here on line 26. That should have a total as well. We could do the same thing again, but maybe to save a couple keystrokes, we've still got it selected. So let's click on our copy button. Let's copy it, and then we'll come down here and we'll paste it. And now we've pasted them. So now we've got our totals in all the right places. Click somewhere else. We're going to do some calculations on this sheet too. So let's add some labels on our column. So we're going to call this increase. We're going to call this one percent increase. And we'll do the same down here. Oh, hey, well, I can copy that, can't I? Let's see, copy and paste. Boy, that saves me a lot of time, doesn't it? Alright, so where do we want to go first? Let's calculate the increase in units sold. How would we do that? Well, it's pretty easy. It's a simple formula, right? We're going to say equals 2012 sales minus the 2011 sales, and enter. So we have an increase of that. Let's also over here, let's calculate our percentage of increase now that we have that total. So again, we're just a simple formula by using the equal sign. We're going to take that 248 and we're going to divide it by what? The starting value, to see what our percentage increase is. Remember, whenever you're doing a percentage increase calculation, you're going to divide the amount of the change or the increase by the starting value and not the ending value. Alright, well, golly, looks like we ought to copy these down, shouldn't it? Well, let's go ahead and do that. So what do we want to do? We're going to select the two calculations we just did, and we should copy and paste them, right? So let's go over here and say copy, and let's choose a non-adjacent range. Do you remember how to do that? Alright, we're going to choose the range of E8 to F15. So we're going to select E8 to F15. And then non-adjacent means it's not next to each other, right? So we're going to hold down the Control key and we're going to do E18 over to F26. And we let go of our mouse click and our control button. Now we simply come up here and we say paste it. Wow, that is so efficient. Alright, let's look at our numbers. Our numbers are kind of goofy, aren't they? I'm not sure that I really like my numbers so much. So let's look at these, and I like numbers to have commas. So let's select this group of numbers here, and we're going to go on our number group on our home tab, and we've got a little comma button right there. Let's put a comma in. And you'll see it automatically gave us some decimals. We don't really want decimals, so we'll decrease it by pressing on this one. See, decreasing decimal, 1, 2, and that takes care of our decimals. Alright, let's go down here and format our revenue information. So let's go C18 to what? E26. We're going to put our comma in there. Let's put our comma in there. Now remember, this is revenue, so we do want decimal places there, right? The other one was how many units. So this time we want to apply, I like to have a dollar sign at the beginning and at the end. We don't need a dollar sign on every line. So we can come here, and in our accounting group, we still keep our range selected, and we're going to simply click on this dollar sign. Oh, that put it everywhere. I don't want it everywhere. Let's undo it. Thank you. Goodbye. So instead, let's just do our first our first row section of numbers and our second section of numbers. Remember, to get the non-adjacent, hold down your control key, and we'll come up here and we'll click it again. Oh yes, that's much better. I like that better. Alright, now we need to get this percentage column of column F, because that's a really ugly number. So let's select our groups here. Scroll up just a little bit, and our non-adjacent groups. And what do you suppose we're going to hit this time? Yes, in that number group, we're now just going to click on the percentage button. Oh, but I think we need to increase our decimal here, so let's see what happens. Oh, that looks much nicer again. And we'll click somewhere outside of that to be done. Alright, so that shows our percentage increase, and we've got 2 decimal places. So I think this looks pretty good for the moment. Let's go back to that documentation sheet. I want to do a couple other things here. I just don't like the way it's formatted very well. So let's change our date format here. So we'll click on the date, and we'll come up here in our number group on date, and let's choose the long date. Oh yes, I like that much better. Now, if you notice, it's right justified. I really don't like that. So let's make it left justified, which means everything is over on the left hand side of our screen. So with our B5 cell selected, we can come up here in the alignment group, and we choose this one right here, which is left text, or text left, and that sets it up pretty well. Much nicer. Let's go over here to yearly sales and tinker around with some of our things here too. So let's choose C6, what do we want to do? C, D, E, and F, and come down here. Remember, hit that control button, and let's make them centered. So again, we come up on our alignment and we hit the center button. Yeah, I like that. That looks a lot better. Alright. Now if you notice, we've got these regions here. It would be kind of nice to have them just indented. Of course, we could click on it, we could hit a couple spaces in front of that letter R, but there's a better way. So let's select these two areas. Go up here and grab our control button, and we can simply come up here on the alignment tool and say increase indent, or if we wanted to keystroke, Control Alt and Tab, and that moves it over so it just looks a little better to me anyway. And we click somewhere else. Alright, what else shall we do? Oh, merging. Have you ever noticed that sometimes it seems like there's a title that hovers over the top of things and it just looks really nice? Well, we can do that pretty easy too. Let's move the X310, and we're going to select the cell range where we want it to be centered over. So we're going to go all the way across here because that's where our data is. And this is how easy it is. Come up here to alignment and say merge in center, and we're done. Pretty easy. We could do that on here on the units sold and the revenue also. Let's see what happens here. So we want to center it, merge and center here. Now when we're going vertically, it's a little bit different. I'll show you what happens here. You see it drops down to the bottom of the group? That's okay because we're going to do something else here real quick. So we'll move those. We can rotate the titles. You ever see it where letters are turned sideways? That's pretty handy. Well, so we've got the revenue group already done. Click on this orientation button and it'll rotate, and it'll tell us what we want to do. And you have several choices. We can say rotate, and now we have that. But it's still at the bottom. Let's go over here to this button here and say middle align. Ah, there we go. And let's duplicate it for this one. There's our rotate text up and centering it. Yes, that looks much better. I like that. Alright. It's still kind of boring though, right? So let's add some borders and just make it a little boxy looking so it sharpens it up a little bit. So we can select our rows. So we will go across here again and across here for our title rows. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And if we click our border button in the font group, which is this little button right here, and we open that up, we have a bunch of different choices. And for right now, what do we want? We want a bottom border. Yeah, I like that. Alright. Let's add something here at the bottom. You know, usually in accounting we have things that we have subtotaled. So let's grab our groups here. Remember, click and select using your control. We'll go up here to our font group and go to the borders, and this time we want a top border with a double bottom. Sweet. Alright. What else should we do? We can have some fun here. Let's see. If we grab here this little group of numbers, let's format some of them. And we're going to go up here on our home tab to the number group, and you see that little arrow there? We can open up that dialog box. Let's grab it for a second. Let's do some different formatting. So when this box opens, we can format things in a lot of different ways. But for right now, you see how the negative numbers over here, right here, has a parentheses around it? I really wanted to see a minus sign because I'm going to have somebody working on the spreadsheet later that doesn't know what that means. So we're going to say number. We want to make sure that we have no decimal places. We've got our comma in there. And then down here in this group, it gives us our choices of what we want to do. Well, if they print it and it's red isn't going to show up unless I have a color printer. So let's choose that minus sign in front of it. Oh yeah, I like that. So now it gives us in this cell, and this cell shows us a minus sign. Pretty handy. Oh, goodness. You guys getting on overload yet? I hope not. We can also change the color. If you notice, everything's just kind of black and blah. So let's grab this group again, and this group again, and we're going to change that border. Right now we just have that black border on there. So if we go back up here to our borders button and we click it and we say more, it'll bring up this handy little dialog box, which you notice it's also the Format Cells dialog box. So we could have gotten here a lot of different ways. And we have our color set on automatic right now. So let's click on that and let's change it to green. Green for money, right? So we'll say green. Alright. And then we make sure that we have it over here on our bottom border, and now it's going to be green. Let's look. Ah, very nice. Very, very nice. So we've been copying things, but we've also been formatting a bunch of different pieces and things as we go along. So let's try and do some different pieces. Alright, let's go back to our documentation sheet. So we'll go over here, and first thing we're going to do is, if you notice, we've got the extra comp, and that looks really nice, but when I go to my yearly sales, not so nice, or my monthly sales, not so nice, right? Let's make these things, let's copy it. So we can select these two cells, and then if we go to the Format Painter, all that does is it copies that formatting from one place to another. So it's not copying the words that we have, it's copying the things that are formatting, all of the underlying things. So let's click on that, and we'll come back over here, yearly sales. If you notice, my cursor looks a little funny, doesn't it? It has a plus sign and a paintbrush. Well, I select where I want it to go, and I click, and it does it for me. But you remember I had that red font over there, so let's double click in here, select, make this red again. Red, yes. Oh yeah, there we go. And we can do this one more time. We'll select our cells, do our Format Painter, come over to monthly sales, and grab it again, change it, and make it red. That looks a lot nicer, I think. What do you guys think? I think that that looks pretty good for the day. So let's just go, I don't know, what do you think we should do? Should we do anything else, or shall we just hold on for a little bit? I think we'll just hold on for a little bit. That sounds good. So we've formatted a bunch of cells and ranges, so let's go ahead and we'll save our workbook. Remember, we need to always save as. Maybe give it a different name, and for me, I'm just going to call this extra comp. I like to put dates on my files. So today is 03/19/13. And I'll let it go to where it wants to go, which is fine. And we are done for the day. Good job, guys. Holler at me if you have questions.